Welcome to the Gen X Journey podcast. Dive into all things important to Gen Xers, from advice on aging parents, expert interviews, product reviews, and heartfelt conversations. So put down the joystick, grab your Walkman, dust off your old yearbooks, and welcome to the Gen X Journey.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Gen X Journey podcast. This is Noel Kirsch. I'm here with my good friends Keith Abbott and Steve McKelkey. Hello, fellas.
Hello.
Howdy. In this episode, we're going to be talking about one of the best shows of the 80s and
so good
90s, right? Did they make it into the 90s?
Yep,
okay.
1993 was our last episode.
A little show called Cheers. So,
oh man,
gosh, this was like must-see TV back in the day, wasn't it, guys?
It was, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
And, yeah, for those that may not know, that maybe non-Gen Xers listening, just to give you kind of a summary of this show. So Cheers was basically set in a bar around Boston area. And it was basically the day-to-day interaction of the bartenders in the bar and some of the clientele. And there came offshoots of it in there were different shows that were made based off of Cheers spinoffs. And it was a great show based on going to a place where everybody knows your name. And it was just one of those where, you can go to a place where you can feel comfortable. And the three of us had this conversation about being in a place where we can all be comfortable and be ourselves together too. It's ironic that we're talking about this today. But that was the premise of it. Is just it's a bar in the Boston area that named Cheers, that people would go to all day walks of life. There's a mailman, there's a businessman, there's a psychologist, and they just go to let their hair down and have some good, fun interaction about life. And so that's the premise of what Cheers was. But it was so much more than that small 2-minute explanation, So today, we want to not only talk about Cheers as a great show, but there's some things. We looked at a website called Mental Floss and was really interested to find 30. They have 30 topics that you may not know about the television show Cheers. And so what we thought we would do is we picked some of our favorites of these 30, and we encourage you to Google this because it's pretty good. But just kind of wanted to do our top 10 things that we really didn't know about Cheers or didn't really totally know about Cheers that we wanted to share. So Steve, I want to turn it over to you to start this off. So when we went through this list, what were one of the ones that stuck out to you?
Well, really the first one on the list sort of amazes me because I always enjoyed the show. First of all, the comedy was hilarious. The writing was so clever. And then you had your own old mainstays of, Norm,
oh man,
the bar yelling out his name every time he walked in, and Cliff Claven, and just all the great cast and just a variety of personalities. And then, Frasier launched other sitcoms after Cheers. But so the first one that stood out to me is for number one on the list, and is Cheers almost didn't make it through season one. And that just blows me away because they said many of television's greatest success stories, for example, Seinfeld, Cheers was not an immediate hit. It premiered on September 30th, 1982 to dismal ratings. It ranked 77th out of 100 shows that week, which is, baffles me because once it got traction, it was a perennial top 3. But it was their idea. It was the idea of Brandon Tartikoff, who was the president of NBC at the time, to save the show from cancellation during its first season. And that ended up to be a pretty good call by Brandon Tartikoff and really, launched what was a future dynasty of TV sitcoms.
The second one on this list was the name of the pub and where the actual pub was located. So the original pub that was the outside look of Cheers when you see the opening shot and every time they look outside was a pub called the Bull and Finch Pub. And so that was a pub on which the whole brand was modeled after. And it's actually now changed its name officially to Cheers. And so I thought that was really cool. So if you look at it, it's kind of the series was interesting because originally it was talked about that the series was going to be set inside of a bar or a hotel, right? And but then they decided to change it to a bar, and so Glenn and Les Charles decided the locale should be moved to New England. So Boston was chosen because basically only 5 short-lived television shows claimed the city, and the East Coast pubs were real neighborhood hangouts. So they thought this could be an original location that's not commonly talked about. And so that's kind of where they came up with this idea. So they basically really had that idea. And so have you all ever been to the Cheers bar?
I have not.
Have you?
I
Okay.
have.
You have,
Yeah.
Steve? Okay.
Yeah.
So interesting, because the outside looks so much like it, but when you go inside, it's not anywhere.
Yeah.
You're
expect it to
expecting
be this big open bar area.
Yeah. And it's just all kind of crammed in this little location. Ironically, it's inside kind of a hotel area. There's a hotel around it, and then you go inside it, but pretty cool. So I had to, when I ran off, I had to show you, I got my Cheers shot glass from when I was there with the bar stool.
Nice.
It's one of my favorite shot glasses ever. So got to enjoy that. I think I've lost a bar stool leg, or it's woozy right now. It's a little old, but still a fun historical thing from there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of some fun history that it was kind of neat to actually walk around the corner and actually see. And it looked so much like it. It's like, oh my gosh, you're just almost waiting to hear Norm coming from the basement, So
That's funny.
yeah.
Must see.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying it's a must see if you go to Boston. Just
Absolutely.
take a trip down there, have a beer.
Yes.
Very cool. The series spun off a lot of, it spun off several spinoffs, I guess. We kind of mentioned that. One of them was the Frasier's dad was the main character in the spinoff called Frasier.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing, which in and of itself really isn't that interesting, but the interesting thing is that Frasier's dad was magically resurrected for the spinoff, because during one of the episodes, Frasier was talking about his family on Cheers, and he noted that his father, also a well-respected psychiatrist, had passed away.
Oh, interesting.
And then in the Frasier series, he's an ex-cop and not a respected psychiatrist, and he's notably not dead. So
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of an interesting little tidbit. If you weren't watching close and paying attention, you might have missed that little factoid.
Well, I'll tell you, Frasier would not be the same without him either. So
I know.
Good thing they resurrected that guy, right?
Yeah, he in that green chair of his.
Oh man, yes, so great, classic.
Yeah.
What's another one you thought, Steve? Anything?
Yeah, so this one blows my mind. Number 5 on the list is Norm and Cliff weren't intended to be regular characters on the show.
Could you imagine?
And,
Really?
yeah, so as they share in the article, both George Wendt and John Ratzenberger auditioned for the same role in the pilot. A minor character named George who had a single line beer. And the character's name was changed to Norm Peterson when Wendt was cast, but Ratzenberger wasn't about to give it so easily. He says, as I was leaving the office after the audition, I turned around and asked him, "Do you have a bar know-it-all?" And hence the creation of Cliff Claven and the bar know-it-all, and that he was known for. So and didn't think that was going to stick, but it sure did. And gosh, I don't know, I can't imagine that show without those two characters.
Oh, no way. No
kidding.
And one of my favorites of this list kind of follows up to that John Ratzenberger, who was Cliff Claven, actually improvised many of Cliff's fun facts. So many of the random facts that Cliff Claven offers up were ad-libbed completely by Ratzenberger. And he says, and I quote, "After a couple of years on the show, they realized they could trust me not to mess this up." So little by little, they let me just sort of run off because I knew when to stop. It's easy to improvise comedy. It really is. But the art is knowing when to shut up and let other people talk. That's a hard thing to learn. And that was a interview that he did with Desert News in 1993. I thought that was pretty interesting. So interesting that a character that was never intended to be created became one of the most beloved characters of that show, really. So pretty cool. Noel, is there any others that you found that were pretty interesting?
Yeah, so another one that I thought, this is kind of dovetailing off of my last one, which was about the spinoff of Frasier, was Kelsey Grammer played Frasier played the character Frasier Crane for an incredible 20 years.
Golly.
So I know his debut is in the 3rd season of Cheers. Yeah, in 1984. And although that character was intended to be a short-lived character, it's the character's popularity with audiences kind of led him to become a series regular. And then 4 months after Cheers ended in May of 1993, Frasier made its debut, and it ran for its own 11 seasons. So that 2-decade run is pretty insane. Actually, it's record breaking actually for an American comedy actor to have a character on TV for 20 years. So
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of interesting.
What's really interesting about that is, we're looking at this based on this article. This article was written in 2018, and they had another spinoff for Frasier here recently. So a couple of years longer has he been in this role. So that's really impressive.
Yeah, it's a long run.
It really is. So I thought this is just a quick blurb, but I thought it was interesting since we're talking about Frasier. Do you know who the original actor that they wrote the role of Frasier was written for? Who was the original famous actor that they actually intended to be Frasier? Do y'all know?
I know this, but I'm drawing a blank on the name.
John Lithgow.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So he was supposed to be the original Frasier.
Wow. I can't see that.
Yeah.
That's difficult to put in the head.
It really is. Yeah. Now that you can't unsee who's the real Frasier now, so there's no way. There's no way you can do that.
To get another little trivia, did you guys know Norm's first name? It's not Norm.
What is it?
Do you know this, Steve?
George?
No, that's George Wendt. That's the real guy. No, his actual full name is Hillary Norman Peterson.
No kidding. See, for some reason, I had in my head that he had like a female-ish first name, but I couldn't remember what it was. Interesting.
You would be right.
Oh,
that's
my
interesting,
gosh.
isn't it? Yeah. And then also in the name category of coincidences, Woody Harrelson was not actually. It was an accident that his character was named Woody. It was an actual complete coincidence. So,
how funny.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting as well. But many of the non-regular bar patrons' real names were used in filming. So that Woody Harrelson ended up playing Woody Boyd is by sheer coincidence. So the character's name was written into the script long before any actors had auditioned for the role. So
oh wow,
it's kind of funny. I didn't know that either.
No kidding. That's really cool. Yeah. Gotta love things like that.
Yep.
So I love this next one. So I was always wondered about the mystery of Norm Peterson's wife. You never saw her on TV.
Right.
You hear her voice on occasion. So on this list, Norm's never seen wife Vera is voiced by George Wendt's real wife.
Really?
Yeah. And so they go on to share that though she's only credited in one episode, George Wendt's wife, Bernadette Burkett, provided the voice for Norm's wife, Vera. Burkett did make one appearance on the show as a love interest of Cliff Claven's in season 3. How cool is that?
That's funny.
That's awesome.
I love stuff like that.
Me too. I love the story of Norm kills me. So in fact, part of this is that actually Norm was based on a real guy. So in 2012, Les Charles, one of the co-creators, told GQ magazine that Norm was based on a person. And he says, I worked at college at a bar after college, and we had this guy who came in every night. He wasn't named Norm, but he was always going to have just one beer. And then he'd say, maybe I'll just have one more. And we always had to help him out of the bar every night. And his wife would call and he'd always say, tell her I'm not here. Totally like a perfect, one of my favorite, because and I encourage anybody who's not a Cheers fan, what you really, if there's one thing you need to do, you need to go on YouTube and Google or YouTube search Norm's entrances. And talk about it, because every time everybody would yell Norm, and then somebody would ask him a question and he would respond. And one of my favorite ones is he walks in, everybody goes Norm, and I think either Sam or Woody says, "How about a beer, Norm?" And he goes, "Yeah, but stop me at 1." You better make that 1:30. I thought that was so great. That was so great.
Yeah. One of my favorite Normisms is he asked him how his day is going. He goes, It's a dog eat dog world, and I'm wearing milk bone underwear. That's awesome. Man.
So many great lines.
Noel's still the one that popped into my head right away.
Sorry, man.
Yeah, there's so many though. I love watching those YouTube videos of Norm
They're
entrances.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you do nothing else, if you're bored tonight, just look that up on YouTube. It will put you to bed with a smile on your face. I'll tell you that.
Also, or while we're talking about Norm, another one on my list is the this is probably a little known fact. It would have known to me at least, that the beer that you see Norm drinking, because you watch the episode, he's drinking quite a bit of beer. It's not actually beer. It's a product called near beer. And so what it is it's an ale that has quite a bit of salt in it, and it's designed. Salt makes the have a head and everything. So you can tell it's beer. And anyway,
awesome.
he drinks it. It's a weakened beer, so it's not as strong as a normal beer and everything. But anyway, just a little factoid I thought that was kind of interesting.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
pretty crazy. The one thing that I thought, so the main character of this story is Sam Malone. And Sam was, he was played by Ted Danson, and he actually, part of his prep for the show is he actually went to bartender school to learn how to be a bartender. So that was pretty impressive. And we all know him as I'll kind of combine these two, but we all know him as a baseball player. He was a professional baseball hero in the area, but in fact, originally he was supposed to be a football player. So yeah, but I thought that was really cool that Danson spent 2 weeks at bartending school in Burbank, California as part of his training to play Sam. Pretty cool.
When was the coach character at the very beginning, was he baseball or a football coach?
I don't remember.
I can't either.
Good question.
Do you know, Steve?
Listeners, if you all know, do you know, Steve?
What was the question again?
Coach?
Yeah.
Coach. Was he a football coach or a baseball coach? Do you remember?
I always assumed he was a baseball coach.
I did too, but
it would make sense. That's kind of how they knew each other or something.
Yeah.
Hey, listeners, if you know the difference, we'd love to get your feedback, because I don't fully know the answer to that. That'd be an interesting thing to know.
Yeah.
So, any others that y'all can find?
Yeah, there was one other that some of the stories that are told during the the program, during the shows, are actual, like the writers went to actual bars and kind of eavesdropped in on some of the conversations that were being had like by real people at the bar, and they just worked those into the script, which I thought was kind of cool.
So crazy. Yeah.
So like some of these random topics that they would talk about at a bar, and they would work that into the script and stuff, which I thought was pretty funny. So
that's wild. I mean, you think about that. Like, can you imagine you're sitting in the bar and somebody's like writing a script after your conversation?
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, we were just talking about that the other day. What the heck?
Oh my gosh, they're good.
Yeah. If you remember the series premiere, there was an argument about the sweatiest movie ever made. That was one of those topics that was taken from an overheard conversation in a Los Angeles area bar. So
wow.
That's fun.
That's pretty
awesome.
Bizarre. Yeah.
This one's interesting. So apparently TV viewers frequently complained about the volume of the laugh track, even though there was no laugh track.
No kidding.
So in 1983, a quick disclaimer spoken by one of the regular cast members was added to the beginning of each episode. And we always heard it. Cheers is filmed before a live studio audience.
Right.
Yeah. We heard that. It said this was a direct response to viewer complaints that the laugh track was too loud.
How about that? I never knew that.
Yeah.
I've always heard that disclaimer at the very beginning, but I didn't know that was put in there because people were complaining about the laugh track.
I didn't either. Interesting.
This makes you want to go back and listen to like the first season.
Yeah,
of Cheers and just see what's different from what I remember in the later seasons.
I love doing that for all shows. It's so funny to see the character progression from the first season of a show that you really like, until the end. Like the one that I can think of most is the evolution of Joey Tribbiani on Friends.
Oh my gosh.
He was such a different person in season 1 than he was towards the end, and just like this with Cheers, it would be so interesting to see those character progressions through the years. Pretty cool.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. Great television show though. So anybody, I don't know if it's, do y'all know, is it streaming on anything right now for those that are wanting a little memory lane? Do we know?
I'd be surprised if it isn't streaming on something.
Yeah. I'm actually going to Google it while y'all discuss amongst yourselves. I'm going to ask our research department. if it's anywhere. So Hulu subscription, Paramount Plus, Disney Plus. So apparently there's a few places you can see it. So interesting. If you have a premium subscription to Amazon Prime Video, you can watch it there too. Interesting. So there are some places that you can watch Cheers if you so desire to go down a fun memory lane right there. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Very cool stuff.
Great show. Great show. One of my favorites of all time.
Yes.
One last thing I'll share, I think it's pretty cool, and it showed the responsibility that the writers had. Didn't just make it about a bar and drinking at a bar, but the show helped promote the idea of a designated driver. So it was important to the producers of Cheers that no tipsy bar patron ever drove him or herself home. So there are frequent references to calling cabs and designated drivers.
Oh, interesting.
And the Harvard Alcohol Project had a hand in spreading this message. So I thought that was cool.
That's cool.
Very interesting.
That is cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to do it on Apple TV, and it looks like you've got to have Hulu subscription, and it goes through there. So if you got Hulu, you can watch it. So there you go.
Excellent.
Good deal. I got Hulu.
Good stuff. So, hey, thank you. Great idea to talk about Cheers today, fellas. I love it. Yeah. One of the great shows of the 80s and 90s. I think something everybody in Gen X can relate to, with some laughs there, and some more to come. So I'm really excited about some of the next episodes that we're going to be coming out with. A couple little serious topics with some special guests, but we'll have a lot more laughs and a lot more, oh my gosh, I forgot about this and that. So again, like I say always, please like this show, follow us, subscribe, follow our Facebook page, follow our Instagram page, follow our Thread page. Just follow, just enjoy, be interactive with us. We love it. So our Facebook group is one of my favorite places to go, because there's some really good cross conversations there.
And don't be worried about being the first one, because we do have listeners that do reach out. It's, we've and we love it too. It's really cool to hear people's reactions and to get in conversations about things that we're talking about here and stuff in real time. And it's just cool. So
a lot of those conversations have brought on some of these new episodes,
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. Very cool.
So appreciate it. So y'all have a great rest of your day, and we will catch you in the next episode. And thanks again for listening.
Take care.
See you, buddy.
The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the Gen X Journey podcast belong solely to the hosts and guests and do not necessarily represent the views or opinions of any entity they are associated with. The information provided is for entertainment and informational purposes only and should not be considered professional advice. Listeners are encouraged to seek the advice of qualified professionals for any specific issues they may face. The creators and contributors of this podcast make no representations as to the accuracy, completeness, or validity of any information, and will not be liable for any errors, omissions, or any losses, injuries, or damages arising from its use.